Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Weird childhood memories thread. Post those strange memories or things that happened.
I have 3 stories. Only the first one might count as a proper childhood memory, but they all seem kinda related, so I'm sharing them all. The first story. Be me around 10 or 11 or so. I live in a house on a small hill overlooking other houses. I always sleep next to the window. One day I woke up probably around 2 or 3 a.m. Look out the window and see a large spotlight moving randomly over yards and rooftops. No noise like a helicopter or anything. Perfectly silent. Eventually, the source of the spotlight comes very close to the ground, maybe only 40 or 50 feet up. It's just a glowing orb, neither especially bright nor especially dim, maybe 12 feet wide. Starts quickly moving away from my house while still keeping low to the ground and eventually disappears. Try to wake up Mom and tell her I saw a UFO and ask her what else it might have been if not a UFO. Mom brushes it off and says it was probably a helicopter, or I was dreaming. Go back to sleep. The second story. Be me around 12 or 13. Walking around the house playing one sunny spring weekend. I suddenly feel dizzy and sit down. A very bright orb grows from a pinpoint right in front of me to about 2.5 feet in diameter. It sparkles like a multifaceted jewel. Although it's very bright, the brightness doesn't hurt to look at it at all. At first I assumed it's just something happening with my eyes, but when I tilt my head and look around it, it seems very three-dimensional. Suddenly it speeds away from me and I try to chase after it. See it float straight through my bedroom window and down to the yard where it shrinks back into a pinpoint and disappears. Don't tell anyone. Just assume it was a hallucination, or maybe a fairy or something. The third story. Be me around 14 or 15. Late one fall evening after school, dark outside. Look out the front door and see rain. Mom comes home, and to my surprise, when she opens the door, I don't actually hear any rain. Look outside again. I still see rain, but now that I'm paying attention, it seems less like proper rain and more like it's just faint lines of light moving down like rain. Ask Mom to take a look at it. She can't see anything. Go outside and stand in it. Realize that it isn't everywhere. Just in a small column, maybe 10 or 12 feet in diameter, just in front of our door. It stays there all night but is gone in the morning. It's all plausibly just visual hallucinations of some sort, like phosphenes, but there was so much three-dimensionality to it in each case, and stability in the last case, that I think you'd need a little more than that to explain it fully.
4 years old on vacation with my family. Mom and I go to the historic district of the city. We stop at a small shop to buy snacks and some souvenirs while my mom is waiting in line to buy the stuff. I go outside. There's a cat on the porch of the store, just staring at a house across the store's lawn. Doesn't acknowledge me, just stares straight at the house while I pet it. Mom comes out, sees the house. Wow, that's a cool house. Let's go check it out anon. We go to the back and start looking in the windows. It was clearly a historic site and not someone's home, we just didn't know the details. On the very last window I look in and see an old lady in old-time clothes and bonnet sitting on a rocking chair and knitting. Gasp and move away from the window. Someone lives here. There's someone in there. Mom looks at me confused, peers inside. There's no one there anon. Look again, see the old lady. Old lady turns and looks at me straight in the eyes, go full panic mode and just starts sprinting away. Mom rushes after me after I fall over in the grass next to some old couple, who look at me like I'm some unruly child. Mom consoles me, says she believes that I saw something. She didn't though, not yet. I remember all of this vividly even 32 years later. The rest of the story was later recounted by my mom. Taking a trolley tour the next day. I'm sleeping. Mom shakes me awake. I believe you. Turns out the house was the Whaley House. Had a ton of weird supernatural experiences after that up until my late 20s, though none quite as vivid as that one. All of them abruptly stopped when my mom passed away, and I got her ashes. I like to think there's some sort of correlation, but it's probably just peace of mind thinking that she's watching over me, regardless of whether or not that's true.
10 years old, next to my mom in the car. In Europe, taking the usual route to Charleroi in Belgium from home. I live in the middle of nowhere, a very rural area, and my first neighbor is kilometers away. An unlabeled white van in front of us for a very long portion of the road. Mom says the van is pretty suspicious, don't know why. Shitty Belgian roads. Van hits some bumps, trunks open. There's a chained coffin in the van. Mom and I spent the whole day trying to figure out why the hell would an unlabeled white van would have a chained coffin. I have a shit ton loads of stories, a lot with my mom, so I will reply to myself with more. PIC related. Single light pole in front of our house gates, so when we came home at night it looked exactly like PIC related. Everything else was dark since we were living on the French side, and roads had no light in France. My brother would say he found this place extremely creepy at night. He would tell me he'd see shadows standing there. Once my mom and I left during the night. Just as we go on the road, a car enters the light. It had no lights on so as to remain hidden. My mom started freaking out and thought we were tailed. My mom goes to weird places, and the car still follow us. She decides to stop after a sharp turn and to turn everything off. The car goes by. We come home. I don't think we were tailed, but it still was a very weird night. Parents are Italians, so we go to Italy for holidays quite often. Mom made friends with some Swiss, so we went for a stop in Switzerland at their home. PIC related, the house looked kinda like this, a mix of modern and old. Inside, it looks big, but way less than from the outside. There are a lot more doors than what the family needs, as the family only has 2 children. Everything is incredibly well renovated, there's an inside pool, and my mom's friends are incredibly rich. Apparently the 3-year-old can act strange at night. I don't really ask for more info. Middle of the night, thirsty, can't sleep. I can't find any light switch and I'm scared of the dark. Try to go downstairs slowly to not fall, get water. Very scared of empty dark corridors, so I'm tense. Go upstairs slowly, watching my steps. Upstairs, the 3-year-old is standing in the dark in complete silence watching me. Scream internally. The world turns to dark for a second, remained silent in some weird way, and talked to the boy. He didn't answer even though his eyes were wide open. I just go to my room. Tomorrow in the car, hesitant to talk to anyone about this. Mom tells me something weird happened at that house. Actually, the house is 2 houses connected with a bridge. Mom's friend tells her to come check something into the old part of the house. At the bridge, my mom feels a horrible sense of dread. She refuses to go in. Her friends tells her, "That's what I wanted to check, if you felt it too." They had this house for years, but they basically deserted the old house part. They can't support living on the old house side. Swiss are strange. Very young, around 5 years old. Used to live in Charleroi at the time. PIC related is how everything used to look like around Charleroi. Aunt lives next to one of those big derelict factories. Big old house with a gargantuan unkempt garden with woods in it. Once my cousin invited me into the deep woods to show me a blue box. He opens it. Dead bird inside. Very startled. He tells me he removed his eyes. They have an old Doberman they left to rot, always chained to the same little space. The dog's place would smell like rotten shit. I would play a lot of scary games with my cousins at that place. Once, alone in my cousin's room. See that someone went upstairs to the attic, certainly my older cousin. Go upstairs, nobody. Look everywhere, can't find him. Go back downstairs to my cousin's room, feel someone at the door. I look, a strange shadow looking at me. It doesn't go away, starts to cry and scream. Run downstairs, calm down, still no idea what I saw. Around 10 years old. Lived in a house in the middle of nowhere. Around us fields everywhere across the landscape. Wake up one morning, ear-shredding sound from outside. I wonder what the hell is happening out there. Light is blinding even through the curtains. Check my phone, it's 4 a.m. WTF, it's not day? Brief remembrance of getting up to see something gigantic and extremely bright all over the sky. The next thing I remember is waking up in the actual morning. I talk about it with my big brother. Expect him to think I'm mentally disabled. I saw it too. UFOs are real, they're in Belgium. That's all I can think for now.
maybe 6 or 7 years old. Wake up in the night and can't get back to sleep. Quietly get out of bed and open my bedroom door. Stand out on the landing listening. Hear the noise of the TV in the living room downstairs. My parents are still up. Want to go see them. Know that it's past my bedtime and I might get scolded. Big brain idea. I'll just say I'm thirsty and need a drink. Foolproof. Creep down slowly to avoid creaking steps so I don't get intercepted on the stairs. Make it to the bottom. The door to the living room is closed. I can see the glow of the TV from under the door. Sounds like they are watching the news. Listen for a moment, hesitating because scared of getting told off. Get the courage to open the door. Pitch dark and complete silence. Go back to bed confused. I suffered from night terrors around that age, but that was definitely not one of them. I was too awake and lucid, and it was too mundane.
Be me 3 or 4. Really old lady comes to my house to talk to my mom. Oldest looking person I'd ever seen, older than my grandma. She scared me a little. Mom calls me into the kitchen. "Anon, this is your grandma, maternal grandmother's maiden name." Old lady is nice. She gives me a small box with a ribbon on it. I'd been scared of her, but she gave me a present, so she must be nice. This is one of my first memories. My whole life I figured I'd met my great-grandmother, but I could never remember what was in the box. About 20 years later, visiting a cemetery with my mum for one of her friends. "Your great-grandparents are buried here too," takes me to their graves. Great-grandma died in the 70s. I was born in the 90s. Tell my mum I remembered meeting her and describe the experience. All my great-grandparents were dead before I was born. She doesn't remember this happening, or any old lady, or any gift. This has bothered me for years now. Did I just make the whole thing up?
I had some similar experience to this, actually. I was at a funeral for a great-grandparent when I was very, very little, and I remember playing with my cousins, or at least I assume they were my cousins. They don't look like them looking back other than being blonde, but I'm afraid of muddling the memories in hindsight trying to think about them. While it was going on in this big garden area, I asked my parents about it later, like senior year of high school. And I wouldn't have been at any funerals at that age or until much later in life. Come to think of it, it kind of didn't fit the aesthetic of my memories from back then. If that makes any sense, it seemed infinitely more vibrant. Sorry if this came out really disjointed. I have a couple more mismatched memories, but they're mainly just really vivid snippets, so it'd be kinda hard to Greentext them. Pic related, it kinda looked like this, but with a sunset sky and one of those funeral picture holder things.
Be me, like 8. Family vacation, parents and sister, 15-ish, staying in a haunted hotel well known to locals. Not our first time here, nor last. Besides, creepy paintings only have this one experience. Sleeping on the floor with my sister, parents on the bed. Wake up in the middle of night, probably 3 a.m.-ish. I've always been good at guessing the time. Air feels still, yet active. Suddenly, a green orb of light floats from behind the foot of the bed my parents are on. I don't freak out, just watch it wondering where the hell the light is coming from. I'm grumpy when I wake up. I think to myself it might be a digital clock that's shining onto the wall or something, which is obviously not what it is. Wait for it to do something. Watch it slowly float around for like 20 seconds before getting bored of it and closing my eyes and going back to sweet, sweet sleep. Wake up, go to get breakfast with the family. Don't care enough to mention the orb. Last day here, parents ask, "So how was the hotel? Was it spooky?" Not really, but I did see a weird green orb last night. My sister turns to me, freaked out. "You saw it too." I have one other story which has been witnessed by others at my cousin's house, which is supposedly haunted. And a bunch which only I witnessed, some real fantastical stuff much later in life.
Be me, B10. I'm super obsessed with video games, especially my 3DS. My parents said that bedtime was at 8 p.m, so I was supposed to be in bed at 8:30-ish. After my parents tuck me in or whatever, I hear them go into the living room to continue watching TV. I decided that instead of going to bed, I was going to try to stay up to play my 3DS since they kept it in the kitchen adjacent to the living room. I look at the clock and it's about 9 p.m. I look away and blink, look back, and it instantly says 12:04 a.m. WTF. Did I just fall asleep or did this happen to anyone else? I've never had this happen to me again, but I have heard from others that they have had similar time skips.
I once was in my bed sitting up playing with Legos. I remember the sun was just coming up. It feels like I blinked and the sun was higher in the sky, like I blinked and hours had passed. I also had this thing where everything felt fast and slow at the same time for a couple minutes. Now, as an adult, I can liken it to pot or acid. Often makes me wonder if my parents gave me drugs or something as a younger kid.
I've got one like that. One of the weirdest things that's happened to me. I had some other weird stuff happen as a kid, but this is really inexplicable. Be me, 18. Board a flight from Los Angeles to New Zealand by myself. I'd saved up to go on a 3-month trip by myself. More than 14-hour flight. Take off, fall asleep before we even get to cruising altitude. I woke up after what felt like a couple hours, ready to sit there for another 10. Plane begins descending and they are announcing that we should get prepared for landing. I think they must have made an announcement while I was asleep that we had to turn around for some reason. Realize that's not the case, and we're landing in New Zealand. Confusion. I apparently slept 13+ straight hours on a plane, and it felt like I took a nap. I'm not at all a heavy sleeper or good at sleeping on planes, etc. I remember I felt a little funny, but not like I just slept 13 or 14 hours. Sometimes I wonder if they drugged everyone on the plane for some bizarre reason.
Be me, 6-year-old child from the 80s. I live in a worker class area in a big city. Returning with sis from school, she is 17, sunny day, people around, cars passing by. But all of the sudden everything becomes silent. No birds chirping, no cars noise, no people around us, nothing. Everything seems dead, as if time froze. As we approach home, there is some weird green fog or mist around our flat complex, like something taken from an N64 game like Body Harvest or Glover. I can still remember the look of that mist. Now I'm inside our apartment. There is nobody home. Everything is dark, but not pitch black. There are 2 tall, greenish creatures with big black eyes. We scream and run in fear. There is no escape but locking ourselves inside the bathroom. She smashes one of the creatures' hand with the door. I don't remember anything else. I don't know if it was a dream or they captured us inside a time bubble to do something to us. I tend to think it was just a nightmare.
Watching Comet Hail bop with Dad through fancy binoculars. In the backyard on a clear night, it was around the comet's maximum. We watch it for like an hour with root beer. He showed me how to use binoculars. It was kind of fun. He goes in and tells me to be careful with the binoculars. I stay outside, trying to get better views of Hail bop. The light changes out of the corner of my eye, messing up my view. Puzzled look around. The shadows on the ground aren't there anymore. See a cloud moving quickly in my direction. Look at the cloud closely. It looks like the surface of the Death Star, with lots of square compact blocks and towers, very confused. Look at the cloud with binoculars. Can very clearly see details. Not only did it look like a square Death Star, but the surface had a computer chip texture. Get really scared because now the cloud seemed right on top of me, and it seemed very low. Run inside. Drop the binoculars with the feeling I'd be crushed by the cloud at any moment. Tell Dad and Mom. Dad thinks I just have Star Wars brain. He's pissed I dropped the binoculars. By the time he gets outside, the cloud is gone.
Sounds like somebody saw an episode of Reboot a little too young.
Incident 1. I was probably around 7 or 8 years old. I approached the edge of the yard at my school, which was a wooded area and moderately isolated, not frequented by children. I was alone and decided to look up to the sky at a whim. I saw a large, rotating object made out of a brown material with 2 wings attached near the top, made out of very reflective metal panels. It moved quickly, yet completely silently towards the east and passed the horizon within a few seconds. It was also relatively close to the ground, probably around the same altitude as a police helicopter. Pic-related is an illustration of this event that I just drew. Incident 2. I was around the same age as above, maybe younger. I was outside my house at night with my younger brother and my older cousin, when I suddenly felt a strong force hitting me in the forehead. I looked around, but I couldn't find what hit me. Cousin came to check on me, but wasn't too concerned. I think the impact made an audible sound. When I went inside, I saw myself in the mirror and noticed a very clear, perfectly hexagonal depression, exactly in the middle of my forehead. The imprint faded over the course of the evening.
Friday or Saturday night. Maybe 10 years old. Stay up late watching TV on the couch on the first floor of home, eventually pass out from the sleepy. Wake up around 3 a.m. later, standing at the top of the staircase looking down at them. My mom is behind me asking me what I'm doing. Apparently I was screaming at the top of my lungs. Never sleepwalked before. Never have since. No idea how I ended up there, or what happened. My older sister used to see shadow figures in that home and would have horrible night terrors where she would be screaming in her sleep too. They stopped, of course, after we moved elsewhere. Lots of weird things happened in that house.
The only person IRL who ever told me he saw a ghost had this almost same story, but from the person on the bottom of the stairs perspective. It's not exactly the same, but I'll just say it anyways. Probably like 18 max at the time, maybe less. Staying at an old haunted axe murder house, Villisca, Iowa, has to pee. No plumbing house is the same as it was when the murders happened, so has to go outside to the outhouse. He's one of those dude bro muscle guys, so he's not scared at all and didn't believe in ghosts anyways at this point. Pisses, comes back inside, sees someone at the top of the stairs. At first think it's one of his family, but does a double take because they're in old-fashioned clothes. Upon looking closer, they are see-through partially, he can see the stairs behind them. The lady starts walking down the stairs towards him kind of quickly. His automatic reaction when she gets almost to him is to punch her. He said it felt like when you punched in a swimming pool, and as soon as his hand went through her, she disappeared. So no screaming kid, but creepy top of the stairs shenanigans.
Young kid. I don't know how old, maybe 10. I had a dream that I go into my basement. The basement, in the waking world, is not finished. It's just a little shelter for if tornadoes come or something like that. It holds a furnace and a water heater that's about it. See a little door on the wall. Pick related. WTF? Why would there be a little door on the wall? Open it. Inside is like a half-sized room that's just filled with dust and stuff. Nothing really in the room. Look to the right. There's a clown doll sitting there. It turns its head to me. Wake up sweating and screaming. Freaked out for a long time about the basement now. Haven't ever been in there except maybe 1 or 2 times for tornado reasons. Don't have any reason to go there anyways, but now I'm scared of even going by the door. Eventually get the courage to check down there. I brought my dog. Rip, good boy, miss you a lot. There's a door on the wall. Build up courage for a long time. Open the door. It's a goddamn little half room full of dust and stones. I literally have never 100% for sure ever opened this door in my life. Look to the right. Nothing is there. Phew! I asked my mum about it a few years later, and she didn't even know the door existed, so that was a bit more spoopy. Anyways, I don't know how I knew about that door, unless I subconsciously remember it from the tornado warnings or something, but I definitely for sure never opened it before in my life, so I'm not sure how I knew what it looked like in there either. Thankfully, there was no creepy clown doll, unless he left already.
When I was around 8, my family lived in a pretty rural area. We had a few neighbors and the highway was nearby, so it wasn't like we were completely isolated, but we were in the woods. In the back of my house there was a trail that led up to a sort of open area that was owned by the town. We called it the Pit and would play there often. Sometimes we'd find remnants of homeless encampments and stuff like that. Anyway, one night around dusk we hear the loudest, blood-curdling "help, help," repeated over and over for a few minutes coming from the pit. Needless to say, we were all scared shitless and my mom didn't feel like playing hero, so we called the cops. They went up there and found nothing. It was so jarring, and them finding nothing terrified me. About a week later, my brother and I worked up the courage to go play there again. We came across a pole with some concrete at the end of it, like it had been broken off of something or pulled out of the ground. The concrete was covered in dried blood. We noped out of there so fast and told our mom. I don't think she ever contacted the police again, though.
That's really unnerving. What do you think happened?
Well, like I mentioned, from time to time, homeless people would find their way there, even though the place wasn't really near any resources except the highway. So I figure the ones going there were sketchy drifter types evading the law or whatever. I can only assume it was an altercation between two or more of them. At the same time, teens would go up there to party sometimes, so maybe it could have been a prank. The bloody concrete pole was messed up though, and we found it in a spot we played around often, and it wasn't there before the incident.
It started during childhood but has continued until present day, late 30s. Starting at around age 5 or 6, I began dreaming about tornadoes. I hadn't seen one in person, still haven't, and I live in a part of the world where they are uncommon, so I don't know what started this. About 90% of the dreams are nightmares. They can vary wildly and no two are the same. I might be in a boat on a lake seeing a waterspout approaching. I might be in a city. I might be with friends or family or unknown dream people or alone. Usually I will see the tornado, but occasionally I will just be aware that one is coming. The other 10% aren't exactly nightmares. In those dreams, I'm far enough away from the tornado that I don't feel in danger. The frequency of the dreams has varied through the years. When I was a kid, it was about once or twice a month. Beginning in my late teens and lasting until my mid-20s, almost every dream I could remember, once or twice a week, was a tornado dream. In my late 20s, it died down to about one every 2 months and has stayed that way ever since. People I've told this about have theorized that I might have been killed by one in a past life. It's possible, I suppose, but then why are the dreams always different? I've looked into dream interpretation, and most sources say dreaming about tornadoes represents change, or fear of it, but my life hasn't been in a constant state of change for almost 35 years.
Man, I'm not scared of monsters or demons or anything like that. Even a little bit. I'm a bit more scared in general of other humans, but I have never felt so actually tiny and worthless and small than when I experienced a tornado through my town. Riding my bike home, just arrived in my alley. The sky suddenly, I mean like almost instantly, turns purple. WTF. It starts turning brown and green. I'm like, okay, this is fucking bad. I'm going inside ASAP. A few minutes later, the winds were so strong, one of my trees was literally like that, instead of standing up. Like, dude, just picture how strong that is, that it made a perfectly healthy, thick pine tree bend 90 degrees and literally touch the ground. That shit was horrifying. Also, the sky turning purple was weird. Pic related just 2 pictures that I found that matched what happened. Anyways, cool dreams.
Mom's driving my brother and me back home as kids, fighting each other in the car 'cause stupid boys. I'm 9, he's about 11. Mom gets out of the car after parking kinda close to home. About 3 or 4 turns, maybe like max a quarter mile. Leaves the keys in. She starts walking home. In my memory, she was just fed up with us fighting and was like, screw this. Just us sitting in there now like what just happened. I was about 9, bro's about 11. Bro just gets in the driver's seat, starts the car, and drives us home. Mom's already there. Don't remember much more than that. Now I gotta talk to my brother and ask him about it, see if remembers or maybe it was just a dream.
Be around 10 years old. Stayed after school at childcare, but it's more for teens because of wagey parents. On my daily way home, walk past the local church, a group of kids and a teacher from my elementary school standing in front of it. The teacher tells some lore about architecture. See 2 friends of mine, have a chit-chat. Suddenly, a tiny wooden door opens next to the great church gate, and a person comes out, greets the teacher. Both know each other. Guy waves all children into the door, smiles at me. I get an instant strange feeling about this. Everyone went into the room, and the teacher smiled at me and asked if I wanted to join. Me. Thanks no, heh. Looked inside the door. The room looked beautiful, but also very eerie. I felt an instant dread. Everyone is inside, the door closes. After all the years, I realized this was a Freemason lodge. I'm 32, but I remember it since it happened yesterday. I felt so weird when I saw this room. Always looked at this door while walking by, and one day I noticed pic related. Always trust your gut, Anon, always.
I used to have really scary night terrors and weird dreams when I was a kid. The night terrors happened pretty often, and I don't remember waking up, but my parents told me I'd be screaming as loud as I could, thrashing with my eyes open, but still asleep. And it'd take a long time for me to calm down later. I distinctly remember the dreams not being scary at all. They were about big wind turbines on a green hill on a sunny day. I can't imagine what scared me so much about them. I also went through a phase of having insane panic attacks around 11 or 12 years old, being in situations like at church or a theme park, and 100% believing somebody was going to pump poison gas into the building and we were legitimately all about to die. Never figured that one out, neither could the doctors.
Be me. Growing up in then rural, now developed Colorado during the drought. One night a thunderstorm comes. I love thunderstorms more than anything. They're the time I feel most happy and comfortable, and in the drought this was an especially rare treat. Stay up late watching the lightning with my little sister, getting late. Next lightning strike, my little sister asks me what something is. Look where she's pointing. Next strike. I see what looks like a naked man with pale white skin by the fence line, apparently completely naked. WTF.jpg. We watch as the man climbs over the fence and then starts running towards the house. Sister and I froze and didn't make a sound. The guy either trips or intentionally goes forward on all fours and we lose him in the tall grass. Now we scream. No idea where he went. Get Dad. Dad goes outside with the shotgun because to Dad's credit, he didn't doubt us. No sign of the guy. Watched my dad from the window. We never saw the guy leave the tall grass. Rain washed away any traces. What was he /X/?
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.